Good evening and welcome to tonight's Southbridge Town Council meeting. It's June 15, 2015. It is just past 7 p.m. and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Crosco?
Excused.
Councilor Clements?
Present.
Councilor Strata?
Present.
Councilor Manna?
Present.
Councilor Moriarty?
Present.
Councilor Peliquin?
Present.
Councilor Steves? Councilor Vandal?
Present.
Councilor Vecchia?
Present.
8 here.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is to consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, June 1st, 2015.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, clarifications?
Are we abstaining?
Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor? And 1 abstention. Agenda item number 4 is subcommittee reports. I've had a couple people ask about this and would entertain a motion to waive the readings of the minutes.
I second it.
So you'd be making the motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any questions or comments? Council comments?
I would prefer to make sure that general government gets read, and also planning has information pertaining to this agenda, basically. Everything that we did in general government on the capital budget is now on tonight's agenda. I would think it would be helpful and not in vain of the subcommittee's work if we could go through some of it. I'm pretty quick, as you know, and I just think it would be informational for the public.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilor Clements?
No.
Councilor Strata?
No.
Councilor Manna?
No.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves? Was that a yes? Yes. Okay, thank you. Councilor Vandal?
No.
Councilor Vecchia?
Doesn't matter. Yes.
Okay. It's a tie. 4 yes, 4 no.
So motion does not carry. General Government A, Councilor Clements.
Thank you. Meeting was held on Wednesday, June 10th, and I was present along with council members Vandal, Peliquin, and citizens members Mike Janes and Holly Christo. I mentioned also Councilor Carrasco, Councilor Steves, Councilor Manna, the town manager, and a number of other department heads were there. We called the meeting at 6:34, and it was to review the capital budget. As I said, there's a lot going on here. Mr. Pecos said there had not been a capital budget for a long time, and that accumulated requests reviewed them and made his recommendations on the FY 2016. The bond would be a 10-year bond for just under $1 million. School department, Mrs. Stanton said the elementary IT network will become crucial in FY 2017. Textbooks needed to be replaced and we needed capital budget requests for the next few years. The purchase of Chromebooks is needed, but the IT network needs to be upgraded. They would like to separate the cold trade building from the addition, which would greatly reduce operating costs. Health Department, Mr. Pelletier said they presently have 2 vehicles for the department who are both enclosed. An open cargo truck is needed due to the nature of responsibility with toter delivery and curbside monitoring. Hard to open up trash bags in the back of a Blazer. Electronic message board, this would be used to display common events held throughout the town. The library, repointing of bricks need to be done to stop the deteriorating of the facade, especially the section on the left entrance. Large icicles gather, and one of the interior walls has plaster crumbling and peeling, and mold is a concern. In the IT department, infrastructure was replaced in 2010, is in need of replacing. If the system goes down, the entire network stops and no productive work can be done. We are running out of space and need the installation of a storage area network. The police department. The parking lot behind the police station is more than 20 years old and is in urgent need of updating. There are large potholes and is becoming a safety issue to our personnel and vehicles. The parking lot adjacent to the police department lot is owned by the AO. It's actually owned by Franklin Realty, the developer of the AO complex, and they have given us permission to use and monitor the lot as long as we repave it and maintain it. No interruption in use would be made in the area businesses or residents who use it now. There are 3 of 11 patrol cars that have over 100,000 miles on them. 1 cruiser is being replaced through the police budget and 1 is requested through capital funding. So out of these, you'll see a number of them on our budget tonight that they're requesting monies for the parking lot, monies for the car. And then we go to the kennel. Our kennel's in terrible condition. Estimated cost for new kennel is about $120,000. And we have been offered by an anonymous donor a match of up to $70,000 to build a new kennel. So that was a request then for the town to put up their portion so that we could get a new kennel to cover this horrible condition of the kennel that we have now. The RMV, the HVAC system is over 35 years old and needs to be replaced. So that was requested along with the oil tanks. The fire department, the ambulance needing replacement is over 12 years old. If our ambulances can be replaced every 4 to 5 years, it would keep the fleet on track. The revenue coming in from ambulance calls is about $300,000 a year. I don't believe that's accurate. Did we not talk about it being close to $1 million a year? Do you remember the ambulance revenues? Weren't they close to $1 million or over?
$2 million, $3 million a year.
Right. So just as a note, a lot more than $300,000. Administration request. We have 147 buildings in need of demolition. A motion was made by Mr. James to raise the amount of this item to $500,000. The request was for $300,000. The motion was not seconded and no vote was taken. Mr. Pecos said there is need for town code codification so that there is a centralized system for updates on all the town bylaws, charters, etc. He also believes our wage classification plan is out of date and needs updating immediately. Those two items were asked to be funded. Positions cannot easily be filled when we're constantly going back to the council for approval because of pay scales. The water and sewer department. There was a long list of items, as has been told to you for quite a while now. These items need to be done as soon as possible. Mrs. Blakely, our director, gave us a rundown on all the items, and it was decided, and the funds would be coming from the sewer and water enterprise funds, so it's part of the ratepayers. It's not part of the actual tax budget. So we took them all as one group. We did not divvy up. It was about 25, 30 items. A motion was made by Mr. James and seconded by Councilor Peliquin with a favorable recommendation to Council to accept the Sewer and Water Department capital budget items to be funded from Sewer and Water Enterprise funds. And it was an all-in-favor 5-0 vote. In the Public Works, a lot of discussion there. 4 of the vehicles are over 20 years old and 1 is not operational at all. So basically there's 7 pickup type trucks that they use on a daily basis. 1 they cannot use right now because it is so bad, and so they're looking to replace 4. And that is what they came to us asking for, 4 vehicles at $33,000 apiece. 1, they wanted to upgrade and put a dump body on, so it's a little bit more. Pavement and sidewalk repair is badly needed, and the limited funds in the operation budget is not sufficient to do the work needed. The roof on the DPW facility is the original roof and needs repair and some replacing. The retaining wall on Dresser Street needs repair and is a hazard. So these were all items under the Public Works requests. So having gone through a giant spreadsheet, like this type of spreadsheet with all the department requests in the finale of a 3-hour meeting, it was decided that a motion was made by Ms. Christo and seconded by Mr. James with a favorable recommendation to Council to accept the recommendations by the town manager in the FY 2016 capital budget finance plan with the exemption of the Community Electronic Message Board, the CoLab Architectural Services request, and town code codification request. Everything else was left on for this vote. It was a vote by show of hands, and all were in favor to recommend a favorable move to the council in terms of the capital budget finance plan that was presented by the town manager. We adjourned at 9:55. Evelyn Rivera was the recording clerk. I hope that helps some of you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just to make a point, in regards to the ambulance revenues, right here in the report, it shows that, the report that I'm reading, the management letter, that the balance for receivables in FY 2014 increased from $660,000 to $860,000 per year. So just wanted to.
Well, it's in your receivables, right? So depending on the actual amounts. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, and there is a meeting scheduled. Sorry about that. Gosh, we get to the bottom. There's a meeting this Wednesday, June 17th, 6:30 p.m. here at the Town Hall regarding Casella and a contract memorandum, and also the Veteran Services, more regionalization of the Veteran Services. Thank you.
B, DPW, Councilor Vandal.
I've got a bunch of minutes here, but I'm going to waive them. I'll read them at another time.
Okay.
For the fact that we want to get out of here early. I mean, I brought my pajamas tonight just in case.
C, Education and Human Services, Councilor Peliquin.
Thank you. I have no minutes and no meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Planning and Development, Councilor Rana.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. There was a meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee that was held on Tuesday, June 9, 2015, in the Rice Conference Room. In attendance were myself, subcommittee members Councilor Steves, Councilor Estrada, and citizen member Wallace McKenzie. Also in attendance were Cassandra Ackley. Evelyn Petrelli was excused. I called the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Just to review really quick. Agenda item 1 and item 2 were to review the meets and bounds plans and the layout description for 7th Way and Marjorie Lane to make them from private to public, and those were passed in full favor to go to council for a vote tonight. And agenda item number 3 was to review the zoning map change request from Russell Ingman for Crane Street. And this was a vote to send to full council with a recommendation to direct the planning board to receive public comment in accordance with MGL Chapter 40A. Mrs. Ackley explained the procedure when zoning change is requested. After the request is received, it goes to the council to request the planning board, get public input, then it goes back to council for approval. A motion was made, all in favor, and so it's up here to vote on tonight. I adjourned the meeting at 6:25 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera. And we did also go over a little bit of the master plan. Thank you. I have no meetings planned at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Protection of persons and property. There have been no recent meetings and nothing scheduled. And for Town Manager Search Committee, the same, especially since last week's, was it last week already? Or was it 2 weeks ago? All blurs together since we offered a position to a candidate. Agenda item number 5 is Chairman's announcements. I just have 2 quick ones. One is just to congratulate and thank all those involved with the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life at McMahon Field this weekend. More than $170,000 was raised for the fight against cancer, with about 1,000 people from around the area and much further out than that coming down to Southbridge to take part. And also that there will be an informational meeting for the Bicentennial Parade Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. in the Veterans Room here at Town Hall. The parade will be May 14th, 2016, but this meeting on Wednesday evening will discuss the parade route, rules and regulations, expectations, and various tips on building floats for the parade. So if you are part of a civic group, church group, anything like that, and you want to take part in the parade, business, by all means, come on down. Agenda item number 6, Town Manager's announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Town of Southbridge will hold a public hearing at 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 25th, 2015, at the Casaubon Senior Center, 153 Chestnut Street, Southbridge, Mass. The purpose of the hearing is to review progress on existing community development block grant programs and to gather public comment on the outcome and effectiveness of the programs, as well as suggestions for improving them in the future. These comments are especially important for the housing rehab, commercial rehabilitation, social services, planning, and street and sidewalk reconstruction programs, because the programs have been ongoing for several years. The town seeks comment from the public and all interested parties and encourage anyone wishing to provide input and be heard to attend the public hearing at the date and time designated above. Again, Thursday, June 25th, 2015 at 5 p.m. Comments may also be submitted in writing to the Economic Development and Planning Office in the Southbridge Town Hall. All written comments received before 4 p.m. on the date of the public hearing will be read at the public hearing. On Thursday evening, June 25th, 2015, the same night, at 6 p.m., a meeting will be held at the Community Center at 153 Chestnut Street to review the scope and plans for sidewalk improvements along Chestnut Street. This year, road and sidewalk work will take place from just below Cisco Street to the Community Center. We hope to undertake this work in October. Mike Carter from GCG Associates will be present to review the plans with all who are interested. Town representatives will also be present. You are encouraged to attend the meeting, view the plans, and ask any and all questions that you may have about the Chestnut Street reconstruction work. And finally, there is a business development forum hosted by the Central Mass South Chamber and the Regional Chamber to be held on July 1st, 2015, from 3:45 to 5:30 p.m. at the Southbridge Hotel and Conference Center. Particular interest is being expressed by these folks in having small business owners, human resource personnel, corporate senior employees attend this training, or forum, I should say. If people are interested, they can go on the Chamber of Central Mass South or Central Mass South website, and they can register online for that forum. And this is a discussion about how to strengthen your own business and also foster business in the region. It's sponsored again by the state and the regional chambers. And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Question
Sure.
through the chairman to the town manager. When is the water and sewer hearing?
Thursday.
1 second.
It's Thursday.
I think it's this Thursday, but let me just check to be sure.
This Thursday too? You didn't mention it.
6 o'clock
It is at 6 o'clock,
on Thursday.
and it will not be in the council chambers because I think it's a candidates' night here.
It's in Rice Council.
So it would probably be downstairs in the veterans room.
But it's also this Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, and a quick question, because I've been getting a lot of calls. The water and sewer, do you know about how much they're going up? You told me that already a couple of weeks ago.
I'm supposed to have the work from the consultant in the next 2 or 3 days, so I can't say absolutely, but I will say that there is a modest increase that's going to be proposed. I've got to review it. It's in the low single-digit range for the average homeowner, and the exact numbers will be
Thank you very
unveiled that
much.
night.
Agenda item number 7 is swearing in presentations. We have none this evening. So we move on to agenda number 8, Citizens Forum. If we have any citizens or residents who'd like to come forward to speak on anything not on tonight's agenda, now would be your time. Going once, twice. Moving on to agenda item number 9, vote to declare certain school department equipment surplus.
So moved.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Councilor Vecchia.
Is this the letter from Southbridge Public Schools from the subject of Southbridge the Lions Club?
What the procedure is here is this kitchen equipment, as you can see, some modest items, is not needed at the school any longer. They've known that for a while. They've had it stockpiled. But it cannot be donated to a charitable organization until it's first declared surplus, and only the council can do that. Once the council, if it is the council's pleasure to declare this equipment surplus, then it can be donated to the Lions Club.
Well, my question is, well, go ahead, Denise.
I don't know. I'm waiting for you.
Well, I'm just wondering, did anybody else ask for this besides the Lions Club?
No.
Well, I'll let her speak first.
Councilor Clements.
Thank you. I'm actually surprised to see this come up because I did contact the chair earlier today. I think the Lions are a great organization. I'm friendly with many of those Lions. My concern when I first saw this on here is that it did not come and get discussed in any subcommittees or anywhere, and it just suddenly was, we're going to have surplus and that we were going to donate it. I asked to have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed before we did something that we may have to look at later to decide whether or not it's a correct procedure. I also questioned, and I tried to call the community center and speak with our director there in regard to whether the kitchen there had needed any of this or even were aware that they had any of these items, because there are quite a few. I go monthly to the senior luncheons, and I know that Pat Jolin cooks generally each month, and I've seen some of the limited resources that are in the kitchen there. Most of the time people will bring their own pots and various things. So I had concern as to whether or not this should come up for vote this evening, and I would have preferred, as I asked the chair, and I thought earlier today he was in consensus, that perhaps the more prudent thing to do would be to bring this back to subcommittee, ask all the questions we needed to ask, and then move forward. But apparently, I must have misunderstood earlier today. So I do have a concern, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I would hope that others perhaps join me in this. I don't know that it's a matter of urgency, So therefore, perhaps Mr. Como just didn't know, or the town manager didn't realize perhaps the process in terms of what other council might want, rather than just putting something on the agenda. So, spoke my piece. Thank you.
Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I did a little bit of research on this today to try to find out how the municipal government is supposed to deal with surplus. I look at the state's website, and the state deals with it in a manner that they have to inventory everything, and then it goes down to bid to the towns. But I couldn't find anything on the municipalities. So I remember I did talk with Mrs. Harnoy in regards to this, and she was going to look in to see if there was a certain number, if there was a certain dollar amount that it couldn't exceed. I do have questions on this as well, so I would err on the side of caution. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Vecchia?
Are we going to vote on this tonight?
That's up to the council.
Oh, well, I'd like to make a motion to put it in subcommittee, because I don't know what the value is, and maybe somebody else wants it, and I love the Lions Club, don't get me wrong, but, I mean, I think we should bring it back to subcommittee.
So we have a motion and a second to refer it to subcommittee. Any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, motion carries. And at this point, it would be good for, I believe it was Councilor Vecchia, to withdraw the original motion to vote to declare certain school department equipment surplus. If you could.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Agenda item number 10, vote to determine if the town will exercise its right of first refusal to purchase land pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 61A, with respect to the notice of the sale of land currently classified under the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 61A, owned by the Jim H. McKinstry Trust for $775,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just wanted to mention a couple things. I did get a phone call on this rights to first refusal actually on Good Friday. I knew nothing about this, and it was very disappointing because the letter came to the town council in February. So I felt that we did lose a couple months in looking for those extra grants or somebody out there that may be willing to purchase this property. However, I want the people to know that I did reach out to Senator Fatman's office and Representative Durant's office, and they were a marvelous help. They did, they did some research. They found some possibilities, but they didn't work out in the end, unfortunately. But they did. As soon as I called them, they were working on it to try and find some resources or help us find some resources that we could possibly take up this land ourselves. But unfortunately, that did not pass.
Can't hear you.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on the motion?
Well,
Councilor Vecchia.
can you explain this motion, to vote to determine if the town will exercise the right?
Mr. Manager.
Sure. Massachusetts law, Chapter 61A, gives landowners the right to put their land into open space protection, and the requirements are that there be at least 5 acres of contiguous land, and that the owner agrees in return for a very, very substantial tax break that if they attempt in the future to change the use of the land to develop it, the town is given the right of first refusal to meet the bona fide offer of the buyer for that land, and the landowner has to pay certain rollback taxes, i.e. some of the taxes that were forgiven during the time that it was placed in, that it was given the tax break. So you have received a formal notice some time ago from an attorney indicating that a corporate entity had made an offer, signed a purchase and sales agreement to buy the McKinstry property, and that attorney, on behalf of the buyer, was notifying the town of the intent of the buyer to buy that land, and asking the town council, do you wish to exercise your option to buy that land? The purchase price is $750,000, or you decline that offer. Now, in order to decline it, you can do one of two things. You can pass a motion that says you decline, or you can fail to act. You have 120 days to act from the date of notification. The 120 days expires on or about June 22nd. So you can take no action, in which case failure to act means you are waiving your right, or you can affirmatively vote to waive your right, or you can affirmatively vote to take the action of purchasing the property. Now, if the council chooses to do that, you would vote tonight to purchase the property, to exercise your option. We would then get in touch with the lawyer, let them know that the town has done that. We would negotiate a purchase and sale agreement, and the purchase and sale would have a clause in it saying that the town council intends to take an appropriation vote at a later date until we work out the details of the purchase and sale. If you choose to not exercise your option, as I say, you can vote tonight not to do so, or you can take no action, let the 22nd come and go, and you will have by de facto action taken, by default, I should say, taken no action and allowed the 61A purchase to go forward. And all that's explained in that cover memo that I gave you.
I'm not done.
Yep.
The cover memo says 750,000. It says on the sheet 770,000. What is it?
775.
But it says 750 on
Yeah.
the property action.
775, my mistake.
So this is wrong over here.
775 is the purchase price, yes.
So it's wrong over here on this page.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question is it Casella that wants to buy this land?
Yes.
And what do they want to do with it? Make it more of a dump?
Their notice says the buyer's intended use of the property is for possible landfill expansion.
Okay. So if we buy it, can we sell it to somebody else?
You can.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Steves.
Thank you. First of all, I know that this is not necessarily fiscally palatable, but I think we really should be. I think we really should be buying this property. I know Councilor Krasko is not here, but he has repeatedly and rightly stressed accountability, and that goes far beyond just holding individuals accountable for short-term actions. It also means holding our generation's accountability for ensuring the health and well-being of our community over the long term. And I think in this case, the property, by buying this property, it'll allow us a greater option than simply either letting Casella take it over or even leaving it the way it is. Because I know that some of the property is potentially developable. It's all of it's industrially zoned. It's all part of our industrial park. Maybe, I know that from what Casella's plans are showing, they want to put a landfill on what I consider the plateau part of the property, which is really the only developable section. It's maybe 20 acres or so. We could use that as part of our industrial park and actually parcel it off and sell it if we designed it properly. And some of the frontage along Commercial Drive, we could sell some of that too, although the land is pretty rocky, and I'll admit that. But some of the rest of the property is already basically conservation land. It's got trails and stuff on it, and even Casella couldn't use it. So it's probably better to save it. Some of it also feeds into Katy Brook eventually, which eventually ends up in the river. And so the landfill and its proposed metastasis to the McKinstry property, it's seeking to expand to this land that, while is by no means pristine, it's certainly in far better shape than the landfill currently is. And if it becomes a landfill as proposed, it'll essentially be useless for any other purpose for a long time and eliminate our options to use the land. That's really why I think we really seriously need to exercise our right to use this, to buy this property. And I think probably the best way to do it, since it's a long-term purchase, would be via the bond. Although I don't like the idea of having more debt, but I think sometimes we really need to do it. Thanks.
Councilor Clements?
Thank you. I'd just like to point out, because I know Councilor Manna was concerned, but she had been to both. We had had a meeting once we were alerted that this action needed to be looked at. General government did have a meeting in April, and then we had a follow-up meeting May 27th, in which numerous people were there, people from the Conservation Committee, many counselors. We had Casella, we had various people from Tracy Markham and John Faris and others from Casella come in also to discuss this. So there was an open meeting on this, just to let you know. There were a few things that came out. We have them in our packet. For instance, Will Knoyer, our assessor, had been charged with, from the first meeting, a number of people had different things. For instance, Councilor Manna was asked to seek out opportunities for purchase where we could get some money for this. Others were asked to, Ken Pickering was asked if they could look at the land in terms from a conservation side of things. Along Maureen Doyle was in on that conversation also, I believe, and then the town manager was asked to look at ways that we could purchase this. A comment came up about bonding it and borrowing the money from Councilor Peliquin. Many things were discussed. When we came back to the second meeting, more information was given. I tell you this because obviously it's very important. On the original notice, or in the notice from Mr. Knoyer, it does have the $775,000 as the price. When Mr. Knoyer looked at this as a potential, it's not an appraisal. He did his best analysis by walking the land and trying to define what possibly, potentially we could do for splitting it up into various segments, whether it could be added to what areas specifically could be added to our lots, could we potentially sell them, how buildable they might be, or at all. As was pointed out, there's a lot of wetlands, a lot of depressions and very bad, a lot of ledge in various areas that are basically unusable, whether it's Casella or us, and then there are some potential lots. Again, he just mapped out, based on all his mappings and such, he had mapped out potential lots, acreage sizes, and values based on the value of land that we had sold, the other 3-acre parcel, or the multiple parcels we had sold to the one investor we already have, who is building, they're building and going to be opening up operations soon at the industrial park. His guesstimate, an approximation, again, not a full-blown appraisal. That would require a lot of work and, of course, more money to invest in it. He came up with under $500,000 as the return, $497,600. Give or take, what, $100,000 or $200,000. So, I applaud him for going out and taking a look at this. The board took this all very seriously, asked a lot of questions. There was a good update on what potentially Casella was looking to do with this land, and what it would take to actually, it would not just be an addendum to what we already, if they were to pursue this as landfill land. It was not going to be just an addendum, an add-on to what they had. They would have to pursue a completely new proposal, a completely new landfill site plan and all, with all the various components. It could not just be added into the existing landfill. So these were all parts of the discussion that were had, and unfortunately at the conclusion of, I think it was at least a 2-hour meeting or more there, and a lot of concern. There was public input. There were Mr. Butler and other people were invited to this meeting as well. A lot of the adjacent homeowners. At the conclusion, the board chose not to make a decision and chose not to take a vote as to whether to recommend or not recommend. They felt that it should come to the council as its own question, and the council could vet it up here to their liking. It was difficult. We did have one motion, or we had a couple of singular motions that didn't get seconded, but in the end, it was decided that it would come up to council because it was a full community issue. Again, tell you all this information, not necessarily just be long, but to be as thorough as we can, that we did take it really seriously, and it is $775,000. It's a lot of money. We just cut $800 and change from the budget and did not choose to levy taxes. I'm not sure where we go with this, but it's out there for all of us to decide this evening, one way or the other, either by no action or, as the manager said, by taking a vote to either exercise or not exercise. Either 3 choices, 3 options basically: yes, no, or just no action. Thank you.
Councilor Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I, like Councilor Steves, would love to purchase that property. However, in reality, we can't afford it. We're looking at a capital budget of almost $1 million. That's going to put us another $1 million in debt. We're already $48.7 million in debt. If we're going to borrow $775,000, that's almost another $1 million. We're going to be up over $50 million in debt. As Councilor Clemens just noted, they cut $870,000 plus a little bit of change out of the budget. We didn't levy the taxes. We have departments that have trucks they can see the roads in. We have neglected to maintain these trucks in a proper manner throughout the years, and now we're paying the price. We have so many issues in our town. We need police cruisers. We need to maintain our police department, maintain our fire department. We need a new fire department. Believe me, I would love nothing better to do than purchase that property and try to sell it off. But as Will Knoyer explained to us, we wouldn't get the amount of money that we paid for it, because there is land there that is not sellable. And we did, as a council, I believe, each of us did our due diligence, and we went out there looking for ways to get this money. So, I mean, if I want to go into debt any further, I say we start fixing the things that really need to be fixed and start looking at the long-term needs of the community instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it and thinking that it'll fix, or putting duct tape around the steering wheel or the brakes or whatever they did to. And, when a police cruiser comes to my 911 call, I don't want it to break down the side of the road. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councilor Steves?
I just want to point out that I completely agree with a lot of what you just said. I don't see the two as being contradictory. They're both long-term needs. They're all things that we're going to be debating in a few minutes. And I think they're all of them. That's the part of the catch, is that we as a community have been neglecting our long-term needs, both environmentally, health-wise, and infrastructure-wise, for way too long now. A lot of the stuff that you were referring to are the infrastructure needs that the community desperately needs, and I agree with you. And I think as far as the environmental needs, we also need to be dealing with those things, that we've been neglecting those for way too long as well. That's a lot, with the whole issue with the landfill going on and taking care of the property that is the basis of our community, that allows the people, that the property that is very much as much a part of our community as the buildings and the people are. So I'm not in opposition to what you just said. I just think that this is also something that we need to really address.
Councilor Mann?
Just one more thing, if I may add. We, the people, have a voice. You, the people out there, have a voice also. Now, it's not set in stone what's going to take place once that property is sold.
That's true.
The people have the right to come out and speak out against it and ask them to change whatever plans they may or may not like. So even if we don't exercise our rights to first refusal, it doesn't mean it's over. And so that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Councilor Pelican?
I'm just concerned that if we don't purchase this land, it will ultimately end up becoming landfill. The landfill's company's legal budget is much more extensive than ours. We only pay $110,000 a year for legal. I'm sure they pay their lawyers a lot more. I know they have the right to overturn our Board of Health's decision based on appeals, and I'm just scared that if we don't buy this land, it's going to end up becoming a landfill, even though we can come out against it. So that's my only concern.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please. Oh, actually, before we do that, we need to actually decide, somebody needs to amend the motion to either take no action, to exercise the right, or to not exercise the right.
I move that we exercise.
Okay, we have a motion to exercise.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion?
Does exercise right mean buy it?
Yeah.
We would be purchasing.
Jim, if I may, the nature of the motion would be to move that the town will exercise its right of first refusal to purchase the land pursuant to Master Law, Chapter 61A, with respect to the notice of sale. Just read the wording on the agenda. because the motion to exercise the option
It would
would
basically
not be sufficient.
Right, it would basically be, the amended motion would basically be the entire agenda item number 10 minus the words vote to determine if. But you should read it into the record, please.
Okay, I move that we exercise the right of first refusal to purchase the land known as the McKinstry land pursuant to MGL Chapter 61A with respect to the notice of sale of land currently classified under the provisions of MGL Chapter 61A, owned by James McKinstry Trust for $775 grant.
So that was the motion, and Councilor Pelican had seconded that. Councilor Vecchia.
2 questions. If we were to buy this land, what would we do? Get a bond for $775,000?
During the discussions, and you have all the material that
Yes.
we did, I asked for several reports to be delivered by staff. One of the reports, I also engaged the Conservation Commission.
I understand that.
The commission...
The public would like to know, too.
I'm sorry?
The reason why I'm asking you for this for the public.
Sure, thank you. I don't know if the commission ever took a position one way or the other on a recommendation. Do you know? I'm looking at a member of the commission. So they did not take a formal position one way or the other. Okay. The staff talked about it. One of the problems, before we recommended the council that you spend as large a sum of money as this, $750,000, we want to be able to articulate for you what we think is the use of it. We did not find attributes on the land that were unique in any sort of natural resource manner, and I think that was why the Conservation Commission was somewhat non-committal on it, because there aren't natural resources. I think everybody knows the land has been devastated by the tornado. The amount of time that it will take to return that land to its natural state will be probably decades. So we looked into see if there were state-listed species, endangered species. There was no evidence of it. I think there may have been 1 or 2 vernal pools, which suggest that there might be endangered species, but that was not verified. We then looked at the tax value of the land, and the assessing department did a pro forma and came up with an approximate value of about $497,600. I'm sorry?
I thought it said $397.
$497,600. I'm looking at the memo, unless it was amended. In any event, the value that we found, and it's somewhat difficult to put a price on it because we don't have a subdivision, an engineered subdivision plan. So we did basically looked at the A&R lots, the lots that had frontage, and took a look at that. And what we came away with was that 775 seemed a substantially inflated value for the land in terms of what the town would be able to do with it. So lacking the ability to say to the council that we saw a viable use of this land as a natural resource, and lacking the ability to say to the council we thought we could have a return on the investment at any point into the future, foreseeable future, we didn't see where we could in good conscience recommend to you that you spend a substantial sum in order to buy the land, particularly when the return on that investment is, frankly, we don't know when there'll be a return. We have an industrial park up there now, as you all know. We have lots for sale. Nobody is buying them. We've sold 1 lot. We have interest in a second. There's a number of others. So I think suggesting to the council that this is an investment for economic development purposes is less than honest. It's very disingenuous to suggest that, because I don't think anybody believes that you'd get any return on that anytime soon. What I do think there may be some potential for, I think it's pretty much unanimously agreed in the community, with the subcommittee, I suspect with all the councilors, that no one wants to see another landfill up there. However, there's a substantial process that the buyer has to go through if he wants to do that with the property. The MEPA review, as you know, which is a very complicated process, and our own local site assignment process with the Board of Health. Illustrating how complicated the MEPA process is, the first phase of a 4-phase MEPA filing, which they've done, and phase 4 includes this land. The first phase was just to landfill 3 small slivers of the existing landfill that have already been site assigned by the Board of Health. The town requested that they go forward and give a waiver. The Board of Health requested that they give a waiver because it's been through the local permitting process. It's pretty much regarded by the community as a fait accompli that those 3 little slivers will get landfilled. But despite all that, the MEPA unit rejected it and required a full-blown MEPA review. So the MEPA unit, as it's known, Mass Environmental Policy Act, which is a composite of a bunch of different environmental agencies, is not an entity that easily gives its approval to these processes. I've been through a number of MEPA reviews. Most recently, the largest scale one that I did was for the requested extension of the train and commuter rail from Stoughton, Massachusetts, through East and a number of other communities on its way to Fall River. The town engaged in a vigorous opposition to that through the MEPA process. And while the MEPA process does not deny the permit, that's not their authority, the MEPA process does assign conditions. And basically what we caused to happen was to have enough conditions assigned that the cost escalated to over $1 billion, and the Massachusetts Transit Authority abandoned the plan to continue with the train extension. I would say in candor to the council that if the town were to adopt the position of opposition to the development of the landfill on the basis that you were going to oppose it on environmental grounds for the MEPA process, for a small amount of money, far, far less than this $750,000, you could end up with no landfill on that land, and very likely some sort of a resource recovery operation, similar to what goes on in the Blue Building now up at the Casella facility, where they do resource recovery, but they do it essentially odorless and with little, if any, inconvenience to the public. But that operation brings the town, I think, $60,000 in annual taxes, Will. I probably don't need to say the obvious here, which is that we don't have a lot of entities that pay that kind of taxes. If the town were able to take the position of negotiating with Casella to try to have some sort of resource recovery operation sited on that site, I think you have a very, very good opportunity to do that, accomplish it, and by doing so, get a tax-paying entity on that land, not have to buy it with the taxpayers' money, and end up with, I think, a superior solution to this issue. If, on the other hand, the council wants to move forward, Karen is prepared to tell you exactly how much you have in your various reserve funds so that you would understand, you know, how little reserves we have and how much of this that would use up. In light of the fact that the town is, in my opinion, and I've said it over and over, in a somewhat precarious financial condition, i.e. the landfill will close, either in the next couple of years or perhaps 4 or 5 or 6 years from now. It depends on what happens with the developable, the triangle land, the 3 sections I just mentioned. But when it closes, that's well over $2 million of annual revenue that you will no longer receive. Right now, $1 million of that goes into your operating budget. So you would have to replace that money. The reserves that we're sitting on right now, $3 or $4 million, and that's about what you have. We are hopefully going to use a chunk of that tonight under the capital budget because we've done no capital spending in many, many years, and that cannot be continually deferred. Trucks fall apart. In fact, many of our trucks, frankly, are junk. We have to do capital spending. We have to repair buildings, et cetera. That's what that reserve money is for. So to take a large chunk of that reserve money and spend it on something that I think to buy the McKinstry land and so-called block the landfill, I think is enormously speculative at best, and frankly highly suspect in terms of good financial policy. And so it was for all of those reasons that I and the staff did not feel that we could in good conscience recommend to you that you expend such a large portion of your very small remaining reserves. Moreover, next week, you will be asked to consider an amendment to the landfill agreement, which will provide the town a substantial amount of benefit in return for essentially the development of the triangle and some other small concessions. Now, I've been told over and over that the development of the triangle is part of the landfill that abuts it directly already, is pretty much given as a fait accompli. The value that the town will receive will be in excess of $2 million. If the council votes tonight to exercise your option under this McKinstry land, Casella has informed me that they will take it as a hostile action and they will break off negotiations, and you will not have that amendment to consider next week. When you consider everything that I've said so far, and then you add to that, that buying this land, exercising this option, will cost you over $2 million of funds that you will now not receive, frankly, I think this becomes an overwhelming presentation to the council to not exercise your option to purchase this land. And if you wish to block the landfill, it would be far smarter to expend a smaller amount of money and hire the experts that can oppose the MEPA filing.
Councilor Decker, are you all set?
Yes, he did a very good job explaining it.
Councilor Steves?
Yeah, I actually had two questions. One is, I don't know if you can answer it or maybe Will can answer it. First off is, how much, I'm trying to remember what, I'm sorry. First of all, the one question is, you mentioned the triangle land. Has anybody has anybody communicated with FAA about that?
Has anybody what?
Communicated with the FAA about that?
Has anybody talked to the FAA?
Yeah.
No.
Where do they stand on it? Because that is airport land. That's
that would
covered
be
by
part
FAA
of the
regulations.
Right. That would be part of the MEPA review process, and that has not happened yet.
It's FAA.
Well, as part of the development of the landfill, FAA permission, because of the proximity to the airport, FAA permission has to be sought and granted.
Yeah,
and no one would begin that process until, well, it would be on the landowner to begin that process, not on the town.
That's us. We are the landowner.
I'm sorry?
We are the landowner. We own the airport.
We don't own the land in question here.
We own the airport.
I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood your question.
The triangle land is part of the airport land. We own it.
Yes. Oh,
exactly.
You're asking, have we spoken with the FAA about the triangle land?
Yes.
Not on the agenda, and I wasn't prepared for that question. I will be prepared for it next week when it is on the agenda, but I apologize, I don't know.
That's all, so I was asking.
Point of order. We will be discussing that entire contract on Wednesday evening and answering, I'm sure, the answers to all the questions. The Airport Commission will be there, department head people will be there, representation will be there.
Oh, the subcommittee, thank you.
Subcommittee, General Government will be discussing that entire contract, which you received this evening to go over, and you should be able to answer who spoke with who and what their information is.
Yes.
That will be presented to as many people and council members and all who want to show up for that General Government meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And the other question I had, either to you or to Will, whoever can answer it, is when Will did the pro forma for that property, did that just account for parcels that could be given current frontage on Commercial Drive, or did it include the possibility of any parcels within the property that could be developed?
I don't think it took into account parcels within it, because again, it's very hard to do that given the slope, the contours of that land, the development cost of that land is fantastic. In order to develop lots in the back, you'd have to do a lot of cutting and filling and creating roads and things like that. You'd have to go around the wetlands that are identified. So the only way to answer that question is to hire an engineer and find out what is, from an engineering point of view, possible to develop back there. And Will, did you want to say any more about that? With the chair's permission.
Yeah, real briefly. I did walk that land. I walked it with the DPW director. I walked it with the director of inspections, Nick Tortis. The frontage lots, I think you can get 9 of them built on the frontage right on Commercial Drive. A lot of it you can't because of the topography. That's the easiest, biggest bang for the buck. Along the very top, you could do a lateral road in. However, there would be a cost, and the amount of additional lots you get in our quick view, without doing the engineering studies necessary, was not a great deal of additional value, and there would be additional cost. So, yes, we did take it into consideration.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Councilman?
So a yes vote would be accept on the motion. Okay, thank you.
So a yes vote would give the council the authority to exercise this. A no vote would decline that, or would not engage in that exercising of right, I should say.
That's on the floor right now.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can you repeat that?
So a yes vote would exercise this right of first refusal. A no vote would not be in support of exercising that right.
How do I vote? I don't want it.
In other words,
If you do not, if you don't want
I
what?
don't want the South buying this land. I mean,
So if you want the town to purchase it, you would vote yes. If you do not want the town to purchase it, you would vote no.
No. They made the
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Manna?
No.
Counselor Moriarty?
No.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
yes.
Counselor Vandal?
yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
No.
Counselor Clements?
No.
Counselor Estrada?
No.
3 yes, 5 no.
Okay, so that motion fails.
Members of the council vote will be reported to the attorney and to the landowner because we're required to notify them of what action you take.
Moving on to agenda item number 11. The Town Council of the Town of Southbridge hereby lays out Servant Way, including all related easements shown as Servant Way on a plan entitled Acceptance Plan for Servant Way, dated December 16, 2013, prepared by Burton Engineering, and further that the town manager is authorized to forthwith file an order of layout and layout plan with the town clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Councilor Steves.
Did you get a chance to talk to Sandy about that?
Yes,
Okay.
there was confusion, just for the full body and for the public, there was some questions or confusion as to whether or not residents had been given notice and
Right,
such, and
exactly.
Mrs. Ackley has indicated that that has taken place. She personally went out and hand-delivered to many of the residents for this, as well as the next one.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 12. The Town Council of the Town of Southbridge hereby lays out Maggie Lane, including all related easements, shown as Maggie Lane on a plan entitled Acceptance Plan for Maggie Lane, dated November 8th, 2013, prepared by Burton Engineering, and further that the town manager is authorized to forthwith file an order of layout and layout plan with the town clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Agenda item number 13, vote to accept the zoning map change request from Russell Ingman for Crane Street and to send to full town council. So this appears, if I may, Mr. Manager, to actually be the wording of the agenda item sent to subcommittee. So I'm going to read this over again. Vote to accept the zoning map change request from Russell Ingman for Crane Street to direct, with a recommendation to direct the planning board to receive public comment in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Councilor Vecchia.
Did you say send to the subcommittee or send to the town council?
Planning board.
The agenda as written indicates sending to full town council, but
Yes.
that would have been something sent to a subcommittee. And when the agenda was prepared, that clearly was not removed the way it should have been.
So you want to get rid of full town council?
Right, that's why I reread that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
8 yes.
Agenda item number 14 is discussion of fiscal year 2016 capital budget. I don't think we need an actual motion there. We're just entering into discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, my suggestion to the council, after we've heard the report of the subcommittee, is that you go down the list in the order that it's presented on the corrected spreadsheet you were given tonight, ask questions, and then perhaps the council could ask for a consensus to accept the capital budget, FY16 capital budget, as recommended by the town manager and the Council General Government Subcommittee, because this comes as a joint recommendation from the two of us. and then take a motion to eliminate anything by exception that you want to eliminate. I think that will be the most efficient way to do it. What it will, because there are many, many motions that have to be made that are very complicated, and Karen Honois and I are going to follow along. And if you eliminate anything, we have to change one of these motions kind of quickly. So I think that's a good way to proceed if that meets with the council's pleasure.
I have Councilor Steves.
I'm just wondering why, honestly, why is this particular item even here, since most of these, all of these agenda items are, all of these capital budget items are further down in the agenda anyway.
That's true, but they're not in order with the spreadsheet. So
Yeah.
you can take the motions up one at a time. I'm just trying to figure out a way to expedite it for you so that you can get this done efficiently without being here for a lengthy period of time like the General Government Subcommittee was.
Was that Councilor Steves?
Yeah.
Councilor Vecchia.
Shorter time if we just went item by item.
That's fine. If that makes more sense to you, that's great.
We know what they are. We got the spreadsheet as a guide.
Yeah, the votes and the spreadsheet match.
Yeah.
There is, I think, one mistake
Yeah, we
on
know.
the...
We found them out. But what I'm trying to say, it'd be easy if you just went down like I said.
That's fine.
Any other questions or comments before we move on to agenda item 15 then? Okay. Agenda item number 15 is vote to reauthorize the Toter Maintenance Revolving Fund under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, to pay for the replacement of lost and/or damaged toters from fees by homeowners and deposited in the account, with all expenditures to be approved by the Health Department and total expenditures from the account not to exceed $5,000 per year.
So moved. Second.
Councilor Vecchia.
We've gone over this more than once, haven't we?
Yes.
Why is it here again?
This is not part of the capital budget. This is, these next two motions are operating budget motions that were omitted when you voted a couple weeks ago.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Vandal?
No.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peloquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 16, vote to reauthorize the Demolition of Buildings Revolving Fund under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, to pay expenses associated with the demolition of buildings within the town of Southbridge and any revenue recaptured to be deposited in the account, with all expenditures from the account not to exceed $184,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Councilor Vecchia.
We've gone over this already, and you already told us the streets, right?
This is a formal motion that reestablishes the revolving fund. Otherwise, the money you put into it last meeting goes to the bottom line back to free cash on July 1.
But we already know what you're going to demolish.
You already voted this, yes.
Okay,
This is a
thank you.
procedural motion.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Clements.
I don't believe, this is an account that we had set up before. This hasn't to do with the actual addresses that he has discussed with us. This is an account that we set up so we can put any monies that come back from those demolitions into it. This isn't about the demolitions that we've been talking about recently. This isn't just a fund to keep the monies coming back in once we've done the work.
Just so it's clear, if you don't take this motion, we will not take those buildings down.
Right.
Because
we
on
need to-
July 1st, the money you put into this fund 2 weeks ago at the council meeting will go back to free cash.
Right.
So you have to reauthorize this revolving account.
And it's a reauthorize, just like the toters. We're going to have to do it next year and the year after. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Estrada.
Mr. Chairman, how many meetings for demolition? Three buildings?
Well, we think we'll get 3. It depends on, the Main Street building is the one that's really very expensive. We know we can get 53 Worcester down. We know we can get 44 Cohasset down. The Main Street building is going to depend on the bids. We're going to have to bid that, and it'll depend on the bids. If we don't have enough, later tonight you're going to be asked to appropriate an additional $300,000 for building demolition as part of the capital budget. If that motion passes, then we know we'll have enough between the two.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Okay, we
Also-
don't know if there's enough in here to demolish 3 buildings out of the top 3 on our priority
But we
list.
got the capital coming up that we put that money in, we know we got enough money.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 17, vote to appropriate $163,088 from the landfill royalty receipts reserved account number 6790 to the fiscal year 2016 capital budget account to fund the following capital purchases: Police Department parking lot paving in the amount of $60,000, RMV HVAC system replacement, $13,088, non-union wage and classification plan update, $20,000, new animal control kennel, $70,000.
So, second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Councilor Vecchia.
Why doesn't this require a two-thirds vote? When the other stuff coming down is going to
Because
require?
the transfer from the landfill royalties receipts reserve requires a simple majority only.
Okay, no problem, thank you.
Councilor Vandal.
The RMC HVAC system replacement, we got $13,088. Are we going out for bids on that?
No, we're required to go out for bids for anything over $35,000 under Mass General Law 30B. Between $10,000 and $35,000, we're required to get solicit three quotes.
Over how much?
Over $10,000 and less than $35,000, we're required to get three quotes.
So you
We're
need,
required to solicit three quotes.
so you need 3 quotes on this,
Correct.
and they've only got 1 quote. Who gave this quote?
I don't know, but we will have to solicit 2 more.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes,
8 yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 18, vote to appropriate $300,000 from the landfill royalty receipts reserved account number 6790 to the demolition of buildings revolving account to fund the fiscal year 2016 capital budget item for building demolition.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the town manager. I'm a little confused on this because I thought we were taking the money that we received from the building demolitions to use for future demolitions. I didn't believe we were borrowing from the landfill royalty account.
Many of the buildings that we're going to demolish have past due taxes owed on them. Unfortunately, because the owners have already essentially, not in all cases completely abandoned them, but have indicated little interest in rehabbing them, that's why they're in such poor condition. Any money that we receive has to go first toward the unredeemed taxes. If there's any money left over after that, then it reimburses the building demolition fund. In other words, first lien holder is our own property taxes. With many of these buildings, what we fear is that the combination of taxes owed plus the cost of the demolition will exceed anything we can get back by taking the land and reselling it. I mean, in some cases, just the fact that we demolish it doesn't mean we're the owner of the land. Somebody else still owns the land. Unfortunately, it probably is going to have such little value that we're going to end up taking that land through tax title eventually, selling off the land, and by then it's probably going to be upside down, meaning the taxes owed will be more than land. So I would not be optimistic that of these first 3 properties we've targeted, that you're going to get anything back into the building demolition fund. You will get some tax revenue back, but I don't think you'll get anything back in the fund.
Okay, the demolition fund's not to exceed $184,000 though, and you want to put $300,000 into it.
I'm sorry?
The demolition building fund is not to exceed $184,000? Am I reading that incorrectly?
The 184 is money that you appropriated, the remaining free cash balance, in addition to money that you'd already appropriated into this fund, for the purpose of taking down those 3 buildings. Had you not voted that, then that money would have gone back to free cash on July 1st and been part of next year's certification.
I get that. So I guess my next question would be, how are we going to pay the landfill royalty fund back?
This one, I'm sorry?
How are we going to put this money back into the landfill royalty?
You're not. Once you take it out, you don't put it back in.
So we don't put it back in. So it just... I like the idea of demolishing the blighted buildings. I like the idea of demolishing blighted buildings. However, I'm concerned about borrowing the money from the landfill royalty fund. I'm very concerned about that, so, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Just name and address, please.
I live 382 High Street. I'm on the General Government Subcommittee. There's a couple of questions I'd like to ask you through the town, through the chair. Thank you, through the chair to the town manager. $300,000. Does that keep up with the blight that we have?
The building commissioner estimates right now that he has approximately 147 buildings in town that are ready for condemnation orders and demolition. We've had extensive discussions. In fact, we've had a task force of staff going this entire year, and we've had many, many discussions about the favorable effect on remaining real estate values of removing these blighted buildings. And a hidden value of taking down a blighted building is that it has an immediate favorable impact on the value of surrounding properties. Conversely, failure to take down blighted buildings has a very deleterious effect on the real estate value of surrounding buildings. Moreover, you have something called the windshield effect. It's got lots of names in planning circles, but it basically says if you allow a property to become derelict and abandoned and boarded up, and some of these aren't even boarded up, they're just falling apart, then you encourage other property owners to allow the same fate for their buildings. With 147 buildings and an estimated cost of somewhere between $2 and $3 million to demolish them all, I would not represent to the council that $300,000 is going to do much, except it's going to begin the task. If the town is able to claw back some of its surplus from different sources every year and continue taking down these buildings, then the long-term benefit to the town is to increase real estate values of the entire community. Failure to take these buildings down, and assuming real estate values stay relatively flat as they have been, will lead to the further degradation of other buildings in this community. I don't frankly see where we really have any choice but to get on with the task, because the owners of these properties are not taking them down themselves, because the residual value of the land sitting underneath them is so small, it's just not worth anybody else spending the money to do it. And so this goes on and on and on with no resolution. And meantime, the real estate value, the total value of the town, which just a few years ago stood at about $1.3 billion, I believe, is now fallen to about $900 million. So we're going backwards if we don't address this problem.
So the last time I heard, the list was 126. You're saying now it's 147. My question is at $300,000, does the list get smaller or bigger? Does it continue to grow, or does it stay the same?
Well, the list gets smaller in terms of the current list as it sits as of today. I'm not going to say that out there right now there isn't a building that somebody's not living in or it's housing some other kind of operation, and that, 2 or 3 months from now somebody will notice that we got a new candidate to add to the list. I can't promise that's not the case. What I can say is the approximate inventory we've taken sets it at around that many buildings right now.
Thank you.
And the building commissioner, by the way, has a list of them by address.
Thank you.
Councilor Vecchia.
2 questions. One to Karen Hinois. She's right there. If we take $300,000 out of landfill royalties, account 6790, how much money are we going to have left? And the second question to the town manager is, I agree, I've been saying it right along, and Mrs. Manager's backed me up. Why are we taking money out of landfill royalty account? It shouldn't be coming out of there. Why are we taking it out of there?
All of the recommendations for funding sources was something that Karen and I discussed.
I understand.
The larger account, your stabilization account, is somewhere around 2.4 million. Stabilization account, we wanted very much to protect, because that's the name of it, stabilization.
Okay, there's your answer. That's
says that's the money you want to look to in the future when you begin having revenue shortfalls.
Fine. That's fine.
If I can, the balance in the landfill royalty,
6790?
6790 is $833,858. That's before any of this capital. In this plan, $463,000 is proposed to come out. So the remaining balance would be $370,000. But don't forget that each month, the excess royalty revenue that Casella pays over the $1 million that's budgeted goes back to replenish the account.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could just make one more comment, too. Councilor Manor made a good point earlier, too, when she was talking about the amount of the account for the demolition of not to exceed $184,000. So I believe we probably do need to amend this agenda item for the $300,000 to go into a demolition of buildings capital account rather than the revolving account, so we can keep it at the proper level that DOR authorizes us to be at.
You don't want it to go in a revolving account? You want it to
No,
go
it'll
to-
just go to a capital account because we already put $150,000 into the revolving, and we'll try to recapture some of that revenue.
But those balances are going to be what you just said.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So it's okay with me.
Amend the motion to read buildings capital account versus buildings revolving account?
Yes,
Does that work
thank
for
you.
Need a second?
That was building demolition capital
Bu-
account.
Building demolition capital account. Very good, thank you. We need a second.
So that is a motion made by Councilor Clements
I made a second.
and seconded by Councilor Manna. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Seeing none, roll call, please, on the amendment.
Counselor Strata?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the main motion? Okay, seeing none, roll call on the main motion then.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Strata?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 19, vote to appropriate $100,000 from the land reimbursement receipts reserved account number 6785 to fund the fiscal year 2016 capital budget for DPW sidewalk repairs.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Councilor Steves.
This should be the landfill reimbursement account, I assume? Do we have a land reimbursement account?
Is that the landfill reimbursement account? Yeah, yes, it is, thank you.
That's what I thought, okay. And how much do we have in that account?
Karen, how much is the balance?
The balance currently is $207,258.
Does that account get replenished too?
Yes, but the majority of that account came from, well, half of it came from some legal fees that were reimbursed from Casella to the town. So that one does not reimburse as quickly, so we may not be able to come back to this account for a while for capital.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 20, vote to appropriate $381,472 from the sale of real estate receipts reserved account number 6522 to the fiscal year 2016 capital budget account to fund the following capital purchases. For the Health Department, a pickup truck, $26,500. Library, repair, repaint. It is repoint? Okay. I thought I heard paint earlier. Repoint brick facade, $41,600. IT, replacement of servers and SAN, $74,372. Police Department cruiser, $40,000. DPW roof repairs, $21,000. DPW replaced Dresser Street retaining wall, $50,000. Town Hall side stair repairs, $65,000. DPW pickup truck, $33,000. And Town Hall roof repairs, $30,000.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? Councilor Vecchia.
2 questions. This doesn't require a two-thirds vote because we're taking it out of the real estate receipts? Is that what you're telling me? Because some councilors have told me we needed a two-thirds vote.
Correct, simple majority.
Okay, all right, so that's just that I was told already it was two-thirds, but you have corrected it, that's fine. I want to know what IT replacement of servers and SAN means. What's SAN mean?
Something area network. What's the S, Will?
Sounds like this. SAN means Storage Area Network. It's a modular storage device to retain all of our data.
It's a lot of money, 74 grand, but okay.
Well, that's not the only part of it. The servers are a big part of that. The storage area network is a big part of it.
Okay.
Think of it as a bunch of hard drives.
Okay, it's been approved in subcommittee, so I'll vote for it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Strata?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 21, ordered that $200,000 is appropriated for science books, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $200,000 under Chapter 44 of the general laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore. A two-thirds vote roll call is required.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Vecchia.
There's been much discussion about these science books, and I'm very happy that we'll be voting for these tonight, because the schools do need them. So that's my own personal opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Steves.
I'm entirely in favor of doing this, and I wanted to say something actually related to both to this item and the next several items down to number 27, which is the fact that that all of them call for going to debt, going to the bond, and I think it would make more sense to do it from the tax levy, because they're all items that we can afford to do if we actually have the guts to raise taxes, and they're all items we desperately need to have in this community. I think part of this kind of goes back to what I said a little while ago, is that about the whole issue of accountability here being, in this case, this is more for fiscal stability as well, because creating more debt for these means we end up paying more in tax money to get these things than if we do it now at once. Because we'll be paying extra interest for, 10 years, 20 years, depending on what the actual bond for these particular items are. And in the long run, that means we pay more. Whereas if we do it now, we get it all at once, we don't have any debt for these items, they're done. To me, that makes a lot more sense. And we know we need them, there's no question about that. We can fit it in our Prop 2.5 levy limit.
To answer the councilor's question, the total amount for this and the other debt votes is $944,670. We plan to borrow it for 10 years. The current interest rate estimated by our certifying bank is about 5%. That would mean over the 10 years issuing what's called declining rate debt, meaning it starts, the first year payment is principal plus interest. The next year payment is interest only on the remaining principal, and so on and so forth. So it drops every year to zero. Over the life of the bond, you would pay $1.204 million, which means the debt would cost the taxpayers about $240,000 in addition to the $944 par amount.
Thank you.
Councilor Clements.
Thank you. There was a lot of discussion, as you might expect, on school issues. The school had a number of things that they requested. One of the big ones, as I mentioned in the minutes, was the IT that needs upgrading in all the elementary schools. And that was a $300,000 request, along with the Chromebooks at $30,000. The architectural service study on the Cole building kind of got nixed pretty quickly. Most people realized that that might not be the most prudent thing to do with $50,000. And then the $200,000 textbooks, which were an urgent, immediate need. And while we would have liked to, and still would like to probably fund everything, one of the things, again, the IT, the $300,000 was is something that is going to need to be addressed. But what we learned at that meeting was also that out of that particular request, there was the potential of a savings through some E-rate credits and such, substantial, potentially 80% on the hardware itself, on the equipment. So that being said, that number could come down, and perhaps as we move forward and the school moves forward in a positive manner and implements a number of, I think, things that have been recommended to them for cost savings and such, perhaps we can address that particular request a little bit down the road. It has been suggested that there is a potential to raise the money for that after up to November, potentially. So I guess the point being, the school was very clear, you know, in terms of what they immediately needed, the textbooks being absolutely foremost. They're using textbooks, I forgot how old they were, quite ancient and not up to par. But the IT in all the elementary schools will be something that we will need to address from whether it's a borrowing standpoint or a tax raising standpoint, because it is an infrastructure, it is a capital. It's not like we're saying, here's some money, put it in your budget and do what you want with it. We're actually, as a council and as a community, looking for the future of those buildings that we have to maintain and upgrade and keep for our students to get the best education. And many, many items are being required by the state being done online. A lot of the assessments and such coming forth in the next few years, they're going to be mandated to be online, and we need technology within those buildings. We need infrastructure, I should say, the wiring and the capacity for the students and the administration, teachers, all the leaders to be able to access, much like what's going on with our IT department here in-house, where we need a $75,000 upgrade just to keep things flowing in our assessor's office. Similarly, over 10 years or more ago, they tell me that they upgraded these wirings for the schools. So I bring this up for a point, that we are going to have to do something. And now, you know, this bonding for what we've decided to do here, it seems to make sense. We may need to access some of those, some of the non-levy tax dollars, being realistic as time goes on. And I will point out, we had over $8 million in capital items requested, or listed on these spreadsheets. There were over $8 million of need. There was over $8 million of need. We're not necessarily touching that, as you can see. And certainly, you know, it's something that we as a community need to be mindful, and I think the counselors and future counselors realize the needs of the school system. So I think at this point, we've got the $200,000 that they're requesting, and it's part of this. And I understand your point, Counselor Steves. I just think that at some point we're going to have to do something. I'm just not so sure it's immediate at this moment. I think the plan laid out is a pretty good plan, and has been vetted by our departments. So,
Councilor Pelican, and then.
I would just like to say that Councilor Steves took the words out of my mouth. Given that it's going to cost the taxpayers more money if we borrow the money to fund these capital items, I would be more in favor of paying for the bulk of it with the tax levy that we can do within Prop 2.5. And not because I'm all gung-ho about raising taxes, just because I believe that it doesn't make sense to charge people more money just so we can give them a tax rate break this year if it's going to be costing more overall. It just makes more sense to be paying for what we can pay for this year with this year's dollars. I mean, also the value of $1 10 years from now is not going to be the same as the value of $1 today. So, I mean, the impact is significant. And I believe that the council should really consider levying some property taxes to pay for these capital items.
Thank you. Councilor Steves.
I agree with what you just said. And also, I don't disagree with what Councilor Clements said, too. However, I wasn't contradicting what you were saying. I mean, as I said at the beginning, I'm very much in favor of doing this. I know the schools need the science books. If we had the extra money, I would love to completely revamp their entire textbook system. But that's going to come up at some point in future years. And some of the other items you mentioned, I agree with, too. But they're not on the agenda right now. But as Councilor Pelican just said, just to repeat what she said, this makes more sense fiscally to do it now in the levy than it does to add the almost $300,000 extra to the taxes. We will end up paying $300,000 more in taxes if we don't do it in the levy this year by bonding it. That makes no fiscal sense by anybody's common sense. I mean, and you know, all of us up here are taxpayers, so I know that that means I'll be paying more taxes. I'm not a fool, but it makes more sense to pay a little bit more taxes now than more in more taxes later.
What's that?
That's it.
Councilor Vecchia?
It's the last hour. This is grandstanding. We're not going to raise taxes. We have the 5 votes not to raise taxes. If you people don't want to vote for the 2/3, this stuff is going to go down. But Councilor Carasso isn't here tonight, but there's 5 solid votes here that we're not going to raise taxes. So I don't know what this play is at the last minute, okay? And I don't really care how you people vote. Vote your conscience. But I'm going to tell you something. We're not going to raise taxes unless one of us changes our mind. And I'm never going to change my mind. Thank you.
Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I agree with Councilor Steves and Councilor Peliquin. I also agree with Councilor Clements. I respectfully disagree with Councilor Vecchia because, in essence, borrowing this bond, we are raising taxes. The taxpayers are going to pay, and they're going to pay double. We have been, I believe, maybe not this council, past councils, fiscally irresponsible. Let's go back to 2008 when the real estate taxes weren't raised for about a decade. The water and sewer rates weren't raised. And all of a sudden you're hit with this bill and now you're paying 3 times as much for your property taxes and 3 times as much for your water rates. And we got people with pitchforks and fire coming because they are upset. And let me tell you, I was very upset too. I was like, we planned when we bought our house around the taxes that we bought the house for. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're paying almost triple the amount in taxes in our water and sewer rate. The taxpayers are going to pay. They're going to pay in the end. And they're going to pay more. And the people I've spoken to, you know, not only in my community, I've spoken to other people as well in other communities, asking them, you know, about their taxes. If you want to see your taxes go up, how would you like to see it done? And they told me if they have to go up, I'd like to see them done in small increments, not being hit all of a sudden and boom, now you don't have the money to pay your taxes. And now the town, the homeowners are in trouble, the business owners are in trouble, and now the town's in trouble too. We've been neglecting a lot, and I'm a little disappointed. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Steves.
Just one quick comment, then I need to say something else. One is that, first of all, if you think about it from the taxes point of view, I know that our property taxes are about 1/3 of what I was paying in rent for over the course of a year. So the property taxes, if you think about it from a big picture perspective, they're not that high. I mean, yes, they look high when you look at one individual bill, and that's not, and it's obviously something that we need to budget on, and so, but we need these things in our community. Okay, we can't let the things keep falling apart. And as I said, the whole point of at the moment the agenda item reads to take them from the bond. I would move that we actually put it onto the tax levy, not the bond.
Second.
Mr. Manager?
This raises an interesting question. On the one hand, I don't think I could argue with the fiscal prudence of avoiding paying for these items with a bond by current taxation and thus not paying the premium of $250,000 in interest, because we all know that when we borrow money, we have to pay interest. On the other hand, the $871,000 in taxes that you would now levy for this one-time capital expense is not available to you should you consider later this year to do the very same thing, raise that $871,000 in taxes, in order to replace one-time Casella landfill money, which is currently in your budget. And there had been some discussion with the council that later this year, and you can do it anytime up until the time you set the tax rate, that you might begin to address the issue of the waning nature of that landfill royalty money by sometime later this year, issuing that $871,000 in taxes and taking the $871 of Casella receipts out of your revenue forecast. You would not be able to do that if you did this. Now, I'm not trying to counsel you that one is vastly more favorable than the other. They're both a good idea. The only one that's a bad idea is doing neither, frankly. But I've said that to you about 100 times. I'm not going to say it anymore because I really respect that the council took a vote a couple months ago not to raise those taxes, and I think it was a 7-2. I'm sorry, it was not. It was a 6-2. Right, it was a 6-2 that night, and so Karen and I have, from that date, operated under the assumption that you would not be levying those taxes. So, you got the choice of A, not levying the taxes and doing this with debt, understanding that you will incur a $250,000 interest payment, levying the debt and avoiding issuing the bond so that you save the taxpayers $250,000 in interest, or issuing the debt, paying the premium and the interest, and then using the Casella money, using the tax money later to switch it out for the Casella money and begin getting yourself in a more financially responsible footing. Interesting set of choices.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Pelican.
I'm not going to be on the council anymore, obviously, when that decision comes up, but if the council doesn't want to use tax levy to pay for bonds, for the bond that we're negotiating tonight, I would definitely be in favor of using it to swap out the Casella money moving forward. And I can, if we're not using the tax levy to pay for capital items, I would be interested in using it to replace the Casella money in the annual operating budget. Did you hear that? Gus, can you tell him what I said if you didn't hear me? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Could Councilor Steves restate the motion that you offered?
I moved that we take these, can we do them all together, or should we do it on this one particular item?
Mr. Chairman,
we do have one particular item.
The motion has already been made to issue the debt service.
Yeah, and I'm moving to amend the item.
I would counsel the council that the motion be withdrawn rather than defeated, because if the motion to raise taxes to do this were to then be defeated, you would have already defeated the motion to issue the bond, in which case you would not be able to do the $200,000 to buy the science books with any method.
But if I did it as amended, and if I amended it that way, and then we shoot
the
down
amendment would be very
that'll...
complicated because we'd have to change the wording substantially. The correct, I can guide the council with the correct motion once this one is either defeated or removed from the table. The motion right now is to issue debt.
Yeah, I get that.
So my suggestion is the maker of the motion withdraw it.
I'll withdraw my motion.
And the seconder has to also.
Do you recall who seconded the motion?
Councilor Clements.
I guess, yeah. But he's got a motion on with a second now, subsequent to amending. Did he remove his amendment motion?
He began to, and then he broke off.
Well, I'm not, well...
But I thought we had a second on that.
He did. He made the motion originally. I was asking him to restate. So Councilor Steves would, before that's actually withdrawn, you would need to withdraw his proposed amendment.
Let me explain something here. Appropriation law under Chapter 40 and 44 is very precise, and bonding law is even more precise, because bonding motions have to go to a lawyer, and the lawyer has to give what's called a unqualified opinion that we have done these things procedurally correctly. Okay. And then a great big giant document called an offering statement, an OS, has to get issued. Very, very complicated. Rather than have run the risk of having a flawed bonding motion, I'm suggesting you simply withdraw it. Then you can make a motion to levy the taxes, see what happens, If the motion to levy the taxes is defeated, then you could always come back and vote the authorization to issue the debt later.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to do both, issue the debt and do it.
Oh, obviously, because that would double.
If I'd known
yeah.
there was going to be a motion, some sentiment to do this, I would have suggested to the chair, you have the discussion first and then take the motion after the discussion, because then we'd know which way we're headed.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So if the motion to levy the taxes is defeated, can it be brought back?
Yes.
Does it can be brought back by anyone?
If the motion is defeated, if the motion to do this is defeated, and you want to bring it back at the same meeting, then...
You need the opposing side. But
Yes.
at another meeting...
And so the likelihood of that is
prevailing
pretty
side,
slim to none.
Yeah.
So I'm suggesting to you, you not run that risk, because I think the worst of all cases would be we have procedurally blocked ourselves from being able to buy these science books. I don't think anybody wants to see that happen.
No, I don't want to see that happen.
Which way you do it is up to the council, but I sense that there is unanimity of opinion that you want to buy the science books. So rather than have that risk, withdraw the motion, it's off the table, a new motion can be made. And then I will recommend what the structure of that motion should be.
Okay, so which motion needs to be withdrawn, mine or hers?
The amendment would want to come off first.
You never made an amendment.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Actually, I think I ended up proposing a substitute motion.
And there was a second.
I think what you said was, could you repeat the motion?
Just everybody say they take
He just made a motion to raise the tax levy.
Yeah, now that's not a legal motion, because it's got to be very specific. What are you raising the levy for? What amount? For what item?
Okay.
So that's not a legal motion. So I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if you want that withdrawn and the
I would
second
prefer
withdrawn.
all motions be withdrawn and then
I withdraw
proceed.
my second to
Okay, I'll
Councilor
withdraw
Seat's
that.
motion.
Okay.
I withdraw my motion.
I'm not withdrawing my
Let's
motion
just see what the
for
council
21.
wants to do first, then we'll figure it out.
Well,
You didn't make the motion, you made the second.
I made the second. I'm not withdrawing my second, no. All right, but I have a comment, though. So can I? Oh, well, I'm waiting. I don't, if we're going to borrow this, we're going to borrow this. And my comment is that I believe we're going to need some tax levy as well to be able to take care of what immediate
Probably
needs
are.
there are.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
my comment is, I would prefer to see some of these items that are supposed to come to fruition with a more accurate number and those types of things, that we just wait somewhat. I realize you may not be here when that happens, and you would want to be probably because we know your intent. I know my intent is to make sure there's some other needs met. I'm just, because of the comments that were made in that meeting in terms of not knowing how much, I clearly want that to be one of them, and there may be some other items that we've not been able to take care of that maybe with a certain amount, maybe it's not the full levy, it's some other amount that we can fiscally, just make a really appropriate decision when it comes time to levying those taxes.
Okay.
So
I understand that.
I'm still in favor of going forward with the borrowing that we've decided to do, but I like the idea of levying taxes to put back into the landfill royalty account or to use for the IT upgrade, for instance, or whatever else needs to be done, whatever combination we can do with those monies that we levy the taxes on.
Okay.
So I'm just, if my second doesn't count, so be it, but then move forward.
All set?
Yeah, I'm good.
Councilor Mann?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just, want to reemphasize, we really need to start being more responsible and with the town's needs. And I had the chance to review the management letters and the audit reports and stuff. I had a chance to, thank you, Councilor Clements, to read over the manager's letter and the audit reports and their findings and whatnot. And I read that, they recommend that the town start budgeting 5 years out. That makes a lot of sense to me, that each department starts budgeting 5 years out. I believe the Department of Public Works, the DPW, does that for the water and sewer because of all the issues that are going on down there. But that makes so much sense. That way we know what to expect in the following year. We know what's coming down the road. We're being more responsible when we do things like that. And I know Councilor Peliquin read this a couple weeks ago, but, or she mentioned it, but I also want to read this, and this was in the management letter. Maximizing the usage of available tax levy capacity provides for real financial resources in the present that can be used to fund capital or other long-term obligations, such as pension and OPEB, that if not funded or partly funded today, will effectively delay the inevitable funding and payment of those costs in the future. So even to me, when I read this, it's like, if we're trying to save that penny today, it's going to cost us $5 more tomorrow. And that, to me, is not being responsible. Thank you.
Councilor Steves.
Oh, yeah. For a moment, I forgot what my question is. If we were to decide to do something with the bond, could we later vote to put it to take it off the bond and put it back in the tax levy?
No, because once you vote to issue debt, we will begin the work immediately to do the bidding necessary to purchase these items. The treasurer will begin the process with the certifying bank of preparing the offering statement. And as soon as the bids are available, she'll probably take notes, temporary financing, because when you're doing, she's not going to want to issue, I think we've got 5 items here, she's not going to want to issue 5 bonds, right, plus the 2 small.
Right.
So she'll issue 5 notes. And then the notes will all mature at some future date so that she can, on that date, issue 1 bond.
Right.
But once she takes the note, you're committed.
Okay.
You could rescind at a later date a motion to issue debt on a specific item that if you've not yet issued the note.
Okay.
But you really can't both decide to issue a bond now, authorize debt now, and then decide later, oops, we didn't really mean that. Now we want to do it with taxes through raise and appropriate, because massive confusion would be created for the staff.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know if it could work or not.
What's that? Councilor Manna.
Thank you. Another question. So would that mean, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Town Manager, would that mean if we were to take out this bond, vote for this bond, would that mean that if, I think you said by November, we would have to take a vote to levy the taxes, and if we did a vote to levy the taxes and that passed, could we take that money to pay off the bond? That way the taxpayers aren't...
In order to pay off a bond, you have 2 provisions in bonds. One's called the put provision, one called the call provision. Those provisions allow you to do things like call your bond back in, call it for early payment. That's the owner of the bond. You can do it. The put provision is you're able to call it back in and pay it early. Nobody wants to buy those, because if you're a bond buyer and you're buying a 10-year bond at a specific yield, say 4%, you want to be sure you're going to get that 4%, that $250,000 over the next 10 years. Right. You're not going to want the issuer to be able to suddenly say, oops, I want to pay it off now. This is not like mortgages, where you have a mortgage and you can pay it off early without penalty. Actually, a lot of mortgages you can't. With municipal debt, if you put those provisions in, you're going to pay a much higher interest rate because of the uncertainty for the bond buyer. Since most of these bonds are bought by large aggregated syndicates, this offers into this a measure of great uncertainty to the bond buying community, and uncertainty is reflected in higher interest. So the 5% debt on which we calculated this translates into maybe 200, 300, 400 basis points more, which means you're paying that much more money in interest for it. Very unwise.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm not going to stop the school from getting their books. They need their books. I'm just worried about adding over $1 million more debt to the town. We just, in the past, we haven't been responsible, and that's very disappointing. We haven't been responsible to the needs of the departments, to the needs of the town, and to the needs of the people, basically. So I'm disappointed in that. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
This is a clarifying question. Okay, where do we actually stand as far as the motion goes?
There is no motion.
There's no motion.
There is none. Okay, thank you. That's what I thought.
Motion's gone.
Mr. Chairman, The motion, if you want to issue debt, is in front of you. You know the structure of that. The motion, if you don't want to issue the debt, is to simply defeat the motion. The motion, if you want to raise taxes to do this, is very simple. I move to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to purchase science books for the school department. Period.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
We're not going to raise taxes.
Wait.
At the moment, there is no second. Councilor Clements.
Thank you. I would just like you to turn your page, though, and realize that it's not just $200,000. We're looking at all the other items. So, you know, were you going to keep making motions to raise taxes for each one? Or are you?
That's what you'd have to do, yes.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah. Interesting.
It's a moot point anyway, so.
Any other questions, comments, or motions?
In that case, then I will, where'd the motion go? Let me find my
We're going to be here all night. We're not going to raise taxes. We already said it.
Councilor Steves has the floor.
Thank you. I move that $200,000 is appropriated for science books, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $200,000 under Chapter 44 of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes therefore.
Second.
A two-thirds vote would be required. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to state again, in essence, yes, we are raising taxes because we are adding debt, and the taxpayers are going to pay for this. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councillor Steves?
Yes.
Councillor Vandal?
No.
Councillor Vecchia?
This is the motion as
On the agenda.
Yes.
Councillor Clements?
Yes.
Councillor Estrada?
Yes.
Councillor Manna?
Yes.
Councillor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councillor Peliquin?
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, if you know for the record, please, the motion carries by two-thirds.
Correct. Motion does carry by a two-thirds vote.
We have to have that in the minutes. Sure. Send it away. Thank you.
Agenda item number 22, ordered that $318,670 is appropriated to purchase and equip an ambulance. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $318,670 under Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, questions, or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please. Again, two-thirds vote is required.
Councillor Vandal?
Yes.
Councillor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councillor Clements?
Yes.
Councillor Estrada?
Yes.
Councillor Manna?
Yes.
Councillor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councillor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councillor Steves?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the two-thirds roll call vote met and satisfied. Agenda item number 23, order that $33,000 is appropriated for DPW pickup truck. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $33,000 under Chapter 44 of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? I have Councilor Manna and Councilor Clements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. The next, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all DPW, and they're all for trucks. And I believe all these trucks are 20 to 30 years old. And when I looked at my notes in this week's packet, I see more trucks. Number 5, spreader plow truck. I believe that's the one that was being put together with duct tape or something. Number 8, the catch basin truck. Unit 15, a sweeper. Unit 81, service and U-joint. Unit 92, test battery and replace alternator. M1 tires, ST1 major electrical issues requiring wiring harness. Number 9, repaired rear drive shaft. Number 95, battery replaced. Well, the battery replaced, that's, every once in a while we got to replace the battery. But this is another thing I see. We see 5 vehicles that are desperately needed for DPW, plus we see probably about 6 or 7 more in the notes. And it's very disappointing to me that now we're getting hit all at once when these needs should have been met in the past. And I really feel this number 5 right here, 1977, how old is that?
I'm sorry, which truck were you on?
Number 5, no, I'm looking at the notes. I'm looking at the notes.
It's the
Number
request.
number
I can't hear
5.
everybody at once, I'm sorry.
Number 5, it's in her notes. It's a 1977 truck. They no longer make the parts. I'm like very confused as to why this was taken out of the budget.
Okay, I got to answer one question at a time.
I was
one person
talking,
at a time.
and yeah, I was talking.
What truck are we talking about here? I don't know what number 5 is, I'm sorry.
Number 5, Heather can answer that. It was in her notes. I'm talking about the trucks. There's extra trucks. There's like 6 or 7 more trucks that are desperately need repairs or replacement, besides the ones that we see here.
Okay, I'm just trying to answer your question and help you out with which truck it is. I'm looking at an agenda. You're talking about an entirely different piece of paper. I don't know what it is.
You want to see it? I pass this down.
Which agenda item?
It's not.
No,
This is our weekly report, and it talks about all the repairs
And I'm
being
bringing
done
up
to
the
the trucks.
discussion.
And she's just passionate about the fact that
You know what, Councilor Vecchia? With all due respect, I am sticking to the question, and this relates to that question, the vehicles.
I disagree.
All right, can we please just move forward? Thank you.
So I'm very disappointed that we especially don't see number 5 on our list of agenda items, so.
Gotta go to the
I'm
director,
just-
I don't know.
I'm very
I
disappointed.
can tell you, Monique, that I can tell you that we have evaluated all the vehicles. It is 38 years old. It is not my oldest truck.
It's not your oldest truck?
No.
Oh.
I have we're still using a 40-year-old truck for picking up leaves and things of that nature. That truck is out for repair. When it comes back, unfortunately, we spent a lot of money on this year, so we don't want to replace it right away because we won't get that money out of it by replacing it. But I understand we have requested a larger vehicle in our original request. That was taken off after some discussion with the town manager. I do have a 5-year replacement plan for all the vehicles that we've spaced out, both larger vehicles and smaller vehicles, our pickup trucks. Right now, what you have in front of you is a request for 4 pickup trucks and a replacement of a loader, which is another major piece of equipment. Your average age of your fleet, average age right now of the vehicles just in operations, 55 pieces with other various pieces of equipment like line painting equipment in there, is over 17 and a half years old. All of our trucks are old. All of our trucks have lots and lots of mileage on them. This is not anything that hasn't been said before. You do need a long-term plan. You can't replace all of them at the same time. So we identified what we could identify as trucks that we used all the time. Our pickup trucks are 20 years old. They're literally falling apart around us. I have one that we've taken off the road because it needed $7,000 worth of body work just to pass inspection. Any of those other 3 trucks could do that at any time. Or their engine could blow, and I won't have them at all. That is where we are at this stage. So we've put the plan together as we see fit. We're hoping in subsequent years we're going to replace more bigger trucks than the smaller trucks because now we're getting smaller trucks. But that's the financial reality is we can't get everything on our wish list, and we understand that. So with that is the budget we put forward.
I totally agree with you, Mrs. Blakely. I guess my point I was trying to make is if we were being more attentive to their needs in the past, then it wouldn't come to head like this right here and now in the present. Thank you.
Councilor Clements.
Thanks. Well, most of what I would have said has been said. The 20-year-old trucks is what we discussed in the subcommittee meeting, and the need for the loader and the roller, which we're told does a path this wide, and yeah. So, you know, I just was going to point out the 20-year-old trucks and such, and appreciate the explanation. Thank you, Mrs. Blakely.
Any other questions or comments? Just briefly, wanted to note that it has been noted in the past, here and there, that really the DPW is a victim of their own ability to an extent, in that because they do such a good job repairing and maintaining the equipment, that those purchases tend to get put off, which is unfair to the DPW, and I've kind of tried to push that in the past here and there. Roll call, please. 2/3 vote is required.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Strata?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the 2/3 roll call vote threshold met. Agenda item number 24, that $33,000 is appropriated for DPW pickup truck, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $33,000 under Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the exact same motion for a second vehicle? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the two-thirds roll call vote threshold met. Agenda item number 25, that $70,000 is appropriated for DPW pickup truck and upgrade, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $70,000 under Chapter 44 of Massachusetts General Laws or pursuant to any enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved. Second.
And again, two-thirds vote would be required. Any questions, comments, discussion? Council Clements.
Quick comment, the upgrade is that there's going to be a dump body on that, so it'll be a pickup truck dump body type situation. So that's the reason for the difference in price.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 26, that $250,000 is appropriated for DPW loader, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $250,000 under Chapter 44 of the General Laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Again, another two-thirds roll call vote required. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 27, that $40,000 is appropriated for DPW roller, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $40,000 under Chapter 44 of the General Laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Again, just a two-thirds vote required. Roll call, please.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 28, vote to appropriate $1,015,000 from water certified retained earnings for the fiscal year 2016 water capital account to fund the following capital purchases. Tank mixers, Breakneck Road, $60,000. Replacement of check valves at Mass Avenue tank, $75,000. Installation of valves at Mass Avenue pump station, $25,000. Lower West Main Street main replacement, $135,000. Cohasset water pump replacement, $125,000. Reservoir flashboard rehab, $120,000. Reservoir spillway brush and tree removal, $100,000. Phase 2, approximately 2,500 feet of 8-inch main at airport, $150,000. South Street water main design, $150,000. Fire hydrant valve replacement program, $75,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? This is now just a simple majority. Councilor Steves.
Yeah, I just wonder if you could give a quick explanation of the Phase 2 project, where that thing, where does that actually stand? I'm assuming that's a water line that's going up to the airport, right?
Ms. Blake will answer your question.
Back a couple of years ago, we extended the water main from Commercial Drive to the airport. This is, Phase 2 would be around the other side of the airport in hopes that Phase 3 is actually up Pleasant Street further to the airport, and would be a whole loop of that system.
To complete, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the reservoir flashboard we have?
Flashboards at the reservoir is where there's the spillways of the dam. We install flashboards in the summer to increase the capacity of the reservoirs. They have to be rehabbed every once in a while because they get deteriorated from exposure.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
8 yes.
Agenda item number 29, vote to appropriate $525,000 from sewer certified retained earnings to the fiscal year 2016 sewer capital account to fund the following capital purchases. SHOT PS Engineering and Solutions, $250,000. Denison Pump Station Engineering, $50,000. Portable generator electrical hookup at stations, $75,000. Lighting protection engineering and installation, $150,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, Councilor Steves?
Yeah, one is just a question. I'm assuming lighting protection should be lightning protection.
It should be lightning.
That's what I thought. Okay. And what is the SHOT PS project?
It's the SHOP pump station. It's a wastewater treatment pump station that's located right near the SHOP property. It's not just for that property, but it's one of our pump stations.
Oh, okay.
It's just the location of it that we use.
Councilor Vecchia.
I have a question for Karen Hernandez. Is she still here?
Yep.
Karen, I have two questions. This says sewer certified retained earnings. Why does it have to say certified?
Because it's the certified retained earnings as opposed to not certified yet for the year. As of June 30th, the retained earnings will actually expire and close, and then we have to have it recertified.
Okay. But we only have one account, the certified retained. We don't have a retained earnings and a certified retained.
That's correct.
Okay. How much is in there right now, please?
This is the sewer, $1,524,000. So this will bring it just slightly under $1 million, which is where we want to keep our retained earnings.
Thank you very much. That's my question. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Pelican?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 30, ordered that $300,000 is appropriated for sewer project, demolition of Washit Building, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $300,000 under Chapter 44 of Massachusetts General Laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Clements.
Thanks. I just want to make sure we're clear before we go forward, because all of these are two-thirds roll call votes. All of them are apparently a borrowing situation, but it was my understanding in the meeting, in the general government meeting, that the borrowing, it's all being paid back through the water and sewer accounts.
Correct.
So it's strictly a
In
rate.
the enterprise fund.
Right. Okay. I just wanted, in case that question came up with everyone that we're borrowing on, if we're clear, then we don't have to ask that question. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, again, this is a two-thirds roll call vote. Roll call, please.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Pelican?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 31, ordered that $1,380,000 is appropriated for sewer project. Sludge de-water equipment, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $1,380,000 under Chapter 44 of the general laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Mrs. Blakely, could you just explain to the community what would happen if we didn't appropriate this money for agenda item number 31?
Very soon, our existing sludge dewatering equipment will be failing. It's 20 years old. We have 2 units, which is what is required by the state, that you have a backup unit. Our backup unit currently does not operate. And if the other one fails, we'll be looking at a $20,000 a week bill just to truck our sludge because we won't be able to dewater it. So we need to step forward with these. It's maintenance on our system. We've talked about these. I know I talked about them last year. This is a major upgrade that we've been planning. This is for actually doing the construction work itself.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please. And again, two-thirds roll call is required.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 32, that ordered that $875,000 is appropriated to sewer project phosphorus system, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $875,000 under Chapter 44 of the general laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Again, a 2/3 roll call vote is required. Roll call, please.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries again with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 33, that $150,000 is appropriated for sewer project biotower bypass installation, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $150,000 under Chapter 44 of the general laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Again, 2/3 is needed. Roll call, please.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries again with the threshold met. Agenda item number 34, ordered that $150,000 is appropriated for sewer project inflow infiltration evaluation, find and fix, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $150,000 under Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts general laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Councilor Steves.
Yeah, I have one quick question. I thought we did something to this of this kind a couple of years ago. Is this something new or?
This is a continuation on of our inflow and infiltration issues. This is an item that in our new permit is required for us to do more and more work. We've identified a lot of areas of known inflow and infiltration but haven't been fixed. So this is actually, we have found some of them, we haven't fixed them. So now here's some money to actually do the fix.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions or comments? Again, a 2/3 roll call is required. Roll call, please.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 35, ordered that $550,000 is appropriated for sewer Kim Drive Homestead Center sewer line replacement engineer. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $550,000 under Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts general laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments, or discussion? Councilor Vecchia.
Thank you. What does this mean? Kim Drive Homestead Center.
That's the 3 streets that it's the sewer line that we're looking to repair is on.
Is it Center Street?
Yes.
Where's that?
Over across from Kim Drive on the other side of the river.
I don't know what Kim Drive is. Where's that?
They're all off of Charlton Street. This is the line that comes from Worcester Street, comes down Center, crosses Katy Brook, actually on an elevated crossing, goes down Homestead and down Kim. The roads are very little in there, so you wouldn't maybe know them, but it is a major sewer line in the town. It's been on the and on the we'll call it radar of the sewer department of being a line that has been under had issues for over 25 years. It's a line that we have major backups repeatedly in. We know it's sinking. We know it's a liability, and this will give us money to address inflow, potential sewer crossing that needs to be done, and it's a major repair.
When you say major backup on the whole 3 streets?
On the sewer backs up in the line, causing sewer backup problems into houses.
For 25 years?
I think it's been for 20 years they've known that there's an issues in this line.
And nobody came forward and said anything that they...
It's been in multiple budgets from the sewer department to the DPW directors in the past, and it's never been funded.
Why?
I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please. Again, 2/3 necessary.
Council Moriarty?
Yes.
Council Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 36, order that $225,000 is appropriated for sewer project. Generator transfer switch engineering and replacement. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $225,000 under Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, again, 2/3 is necessary. Roll call, please.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Council Moriarty?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda item number 37, ordered that $350,000 is appropriated for water project engineering low-service storage tank. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town manager, is authorized to borrow $350,000 under Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws or pursuant to any other enabling authority and to issue bonds or notes therefore.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Again, a 2/3 roll call vote is required. Roll call, please.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries with the required threshold met. Agenda number 38, discussion of next meeting dates is Monday, July 6, 2015 at 7 p.m. in council chambers. For what it's worth, that'll be the first meeting of the next town council and its reorganizational meeting. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman, is the council having a meeting of the whole?
I can't hear you.
Council of the whole next Monday? That's what I thought.
There is scheduled a council of the whole for next Monday evening at 7 p.m. here. And that agenda will be posted presumably in the next couple days. Councilor Pelican?
Just like to note that there's no counselors forum tonight.
Right.
Is that intentional?
It is not, to my knowledge, so if somebody would like to make a motion to add that, since that is a regular feature.
I'll make a motion to add council's forum to the agenda.
I'll second that.
Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, those in favor? Any opposed? No? Okay, so we'll start with Councilor Pelican.
Okay, I don't have a whole lot tonight. I'd just like to say that since this is my last regular town council meeting, I just wanted to thank everybody for serving with me. I've had a really great experience working with each one of you, and it really means a lot for me to be able to serve the community in this way, and I just wanted to thank not only you guys, but the community as a whole for giving me that opportunity to serve on the council. It's been a great blessing, and I thank you.
Councilor Mann?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. It's been a pleasure serving with you, Councilor Peliquin. Thank you. But I'm going to see you next Monday, right?
Yes.
You can't get out of that
I'm still coming to next Monday's meeting.
And also, usually at the town council, the whole meetings, we don't have a chance to have councilors forum, so I just want to say this. Get out and vote. June 30th, polls open at 7, they close at 8. If you don't get out to vote, don't complain who got elected. Just get out and vote. It's your right. Why wouldn't you vote? I mean, it's your right to vote. Also, I think we had some good discussion up here tonight. I think there needs to be more discussion, looking into the future of the needs of our department heads, their departments, their needs, to look into where we need to make cuts. I would also like to thank the school for voting the way they did on replacing the teachers that they had talked about cutting. I got 3 emails from 3 different parents and they were very concerned, especially about Eastford Road. And I'm very happy that those positions weren't cut at Eastford Road, because right there at that level and a little bit above is where you need to make that connection with the kids. And I suppose that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Estrada.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, thank you, Councilor Peloquin, for your service. Honor working with you. God bless you step in the step. Remember my city and June 30. Please vote. No vote, no complaint. Please, thank you.
Councilor Clements.
Thank you. I just want to say that going through all these water and sewer items, I guess we're really glad that we took them up as lump sum in general government, because it saved us a lot of time at that particular meeting. Keep in mind, people may say it's long, but we're only 2 hours and 20 minutes here, and we were over 3 hours there, just the capital budget, not all these other things. So I think we did a great job this evening, and in agree and disagree, we move forward for the town, and hopefully we can do some better things in the near future. Thank you, Councilor Peloquin. I know there have probably been times where we didn't always agree, but I have to say I've enjoyed working with you, especially the last 6 months or more. While 3 years was a long time, I do think that I've really, like I said, just pleased with working with you, and I wish you the best in your endeavors.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, I went to the June 5th graduation, as some others did, and I hate going to graduations, truthfully. It's just, with 5 kids, you go to all your own, plus everybody else's. And I was impressed. I was totally impressed sitting there in the audience. It was a beautiful evening, if you weren't out on Friday, June 5th. And the group, there was over 80 kids, just so cohesive, so in tune with what was going on, and so respectful to each and every one of the kids getting up and getting their diplomas. And it was really an inspirational feeling sitting there, more so than I've gotten before. And one thing was looking at the band. They were playing and they were doing a great job. Small band, we don't have a huge group, but they're so diverse. There were guys playing flutes and girls playing saxophones, and there was every nationality represented, and it really made me proud to sit there and watch that. So not only in our diverse student population in general, the graduates, but the kids just there participating, and the huge turnout in the bleachers, all the families and friends watching their loved ones with their successes, and wishing them well. And it was just, it was a really great event. And I want to applaud the administration and all those that put that together, from maintenance who had to put that together and all. I think it was truly a wonderful evening. I look forward to another one, attending it, whether here or just as a friend of somebody who's graduating. I was very proud of our school that evening, and I think a lot of other people were too. But the salutatorian and the valedictorian had great speeches, very inspirational. I loved the speech on the regrets, and that while we all have them, we could worry about those forever. What we need to do is move forward. He gave a great message, and we need to move forward here as a community. Again, I just can't say enough. I thought graduation was wonderful, and I applaud all of those who got their diplomas and who are working towards that. So, thank you. Just had to say it.
Councilor Vandal.
Last evening, concerts on the Common. There was along the American Optical side, the concert side. They had no parking sign. Nobody could park that whole length. What was the story?
Good evening, through you, Mr. Chairman. If I could, that was a request made by the rec director, because the prior week there was some issues with traffic congestion, people parking on that Mechanic Street side. So he'd asked if you could put out no parking signs, and we allowed that.
Well, I don't think that was a very good idea, because the people didn't have no place to park. Talk about congestion, go down Hamilton Street on a Sunday night if you want to, and nothing's being done about that, and it's been going on for years.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Vandal, what I was told is it worked better with the parking signs on Mechanic Street side, but what I'll do for the next concert, we'll come out, we'll take a look at it. We'll see what works better.
Well, the people didn't have any place to park, because where the restaurant is there,
Margot's. Margot's Deli on the Crystal Street side, correct.
That was loaded. Where did they expect the people to park?
It's just sometimes it gets a little bit heavy over there for the concerts, so we'll work on it.
Thank you.
No promises, but we will work on it. See if we can work something.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Vecchia.
To begin with, this is my first year back, and this is the 8th council I've served on. And to be completely honest with you, this is my favorite council. We disagreed on some stuff, but there hasn't been any infighting. There hasn't been any personal agendas. And I appreciate all of you people up here. Amelia, we're going to miss you. Sean, as the chairman, you've been the best chairman since I've been on the council, and that's 8 of them, so congratulations. Town manager went in the other room, but he's my favorite town manager also. And the department heads are out here. You've always treated me good, you've always given me the information I needed, and you all do a wonderful job. And thank you very much. You're all here tonight, and I appreciate it. And in closing, I went to graduation too. I went with Sean, Denise, and Esteban, and the graduation was shorter this year. It was only for an hour because they gave the awards on Wednesday night. But I had a great time, and I thought they did a spectacular job, and the stands were full. The stands were really full. They graduated 80 kids, but the stands were really, really full. And somebody's doing a good job. I commend Mrs. Stanton, and I commend Mrs. Earls, and I'm looking forward for next year. So thank you very much.
Councilor Steves.
I'll be brief just quickly. I wanted to say, first of all, thanks for your service there, Amelia, and I'll miss you up here too, but hopefully you'll be somewhere else soon. I wanted to also say that if you haven't had a chance to check out the concerts on the Common, you should. We've had a couple of really good ones. Joyco was the first week, and Livestock was this week. And there's a whole long list of them. It's basically been going all the way through September. So get out there and check out some of those for Sundays. Also, just to reiterate what I think Councilor Manna said earlier, please get out and vote. The election is coming up. It is the 30th. It is kind of an odd day, but it is, according to our charter, the very last Tuesday in June. So make sure you get there, and you can get some idea of who the candidates are and where they stand. This Thursday, the 18th, 5 to 8 p.m., the debate here in this chamber. I believe the school committee is first, and then the council candidates. So, tune into that and get some ideas of where you're voting, and go in with an open mind and try to figure out what's best for our community, not necessarily who looks the coolest or has the, who tries to butter you up the most. Remember who's in it for the real reasons, for doing what's right for our community.
Thank you. I don't normally chime in during Councilors Forum, but the one piece that I forgot that I wanted to include earlier, just for the general public, and it's been in the newspapers and so forth. According to our town charter, we do have now a vacancy on the school committee after a school committee member resigned effective June 10th. And through consultation, the town clerk through the state, seeing that the resignation is within 120 days, the process of obtaining nomination papers has passed and ballots have already been printed, so the town will not be able to add a third position for school committee during the election. This will be, there will be a need for an appointment of a school committee member to fill the unexpired term. During a joint meeting of the town council and school committee, the position will be placed on the ballot in the June 2016 election for a one-year term to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Abrahamson. And if you have any questions, you can certainly contact the town clerk. If you have interest, contact her as well. And while I can't speak for the school side, at least in my own personal point of view, I think this is something that is better left for the next town council and school committee to decide, seeing as how they'll be the ones working with whomever is appointed. And in addition to that, just as a call for courtesy for everybody, obviously we have at times with the microphones difficulty hearing. Some people don't speak as loud, some people don't hear as well. So we've gone through this before, but again, just trying to make sure you're close enough to the microphone. And also more important perhaps, while somebody has the floor, please try to avoid any and all side conversations, because it really does, especially on the TV, you can pick up on a lot of that sort of thing, and it gets distracting up here as well. We move on. Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Just, Mr. Chairman, if I may, since this is the last chance I'll get to say this, and I would hate to, Councilor Peliquin, who won't be returning, hard for me to believe that I've actually been here a year in just a few days. And I have to say that you've been a terrific councilor. It's been a real pleasure, and I'll miss you. And I'm sure this community and this council will miss you.
Thank you.
And I apologize, I know I had written it down for myself, but again, as somebody who was elected with you and went to school with you and so forth, I stand by what I said 18 months or so ago. You're easily one of the smartest individuals I've worked with in any sort of public office, and that includes my time as a reporter covering this body, and you will sorely be missed. Moving on to agenda item number 39, vote to enter into executive session in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, and further to discuss strategy with respect to bargaining with non-union personnel, and to not return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you.